Thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar, Building Better B2B Journeys in Manufacturing. This is Demant Group's story. Over the last year, there have been a lot of changes in the world, and it's impacted organizations and teams alike. But the role of technology and people and process is to build limitless capabilities for organizations to scale. And this is what Demant has been able to do. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our two speakers, Troels Christensen, product owner at Demant, and Simon Eisen, partner at Imeo. Take it away, Troels.
Thank you very much, and welcome everyone. So I've been asked to speak here today, but before I get into the nitty-gritty details of our process and our journey, I would like to introduce a little bit about who Demant is, what do we stand for, and what do we actually do as a whole. So first off, we've been founded on what we call care, which means that we are a very, very old company, and we were actually founded by Hans Demant because he wanted to help his wife Camilla handle her hearing loss. So that is actually where we have our roots, all the way back in 1904. And it's been quite a journey for the company, going from its founding all the way in through the last more than 100 years, trying to figure out who are we and changing with the world and the market. We have grown from a hearing aid company into a group and are now active in across 4 business areas in a whole number of different ways, both in retail, in manufacturing, in medical, and most recently also in personal communications, which I'll get into in a minute. We work in a very, what we call an attractive market. So we are see year-over-year growth in our markets, especially in our hearing devices and hearing instrument sector. And that's basically driven by, as the world gets older, people have a tendency, people experience hearing loss. Hearing loss is something that we have found can or may accelerate cognitive decline because it leads to social isolation, which means that as the populations get older and older, we equip more and more people with hearing aids. They are more and more aware that hearing is not only hearing the sounds around you, but also be able to participate in social contexts. And recent studies have found that it's the biggest modifiable risk factor related to dementia. On the communication side, which is our EPOS brand now, it's very much been driven by its enterprise solutions, and an interest in overall gaming has also see year-over-year increases in that market size. So if you look at the right side, this is how we see ourselves. So at our core is innovation. This is part of what we do. This is how we work. We innovate. We push the boundaries of what is possible in our products to make sure that we deliver the best hearing aid or hearing instrument possible to you. We want to deliver the best sound, that close to natural hearing as possible. So this is kind of how we see ourselves. We are active in define ourselves in these 4 kind of areas: implants, devices, communications, and diagnostic instruments. And all around this, we try to harvest synergies and business value by cooperating, sharing, helping across the group. So how we are organized is very much in these 4 kind of business areas. So hearing devices, the most known brand we have right now is probably Oticon. A recent one addition to that has been Philips. We have our hearing implants, which is Oticon Medical. We have our diagnostics leg. And then we have our communications part, which used to be Sennheiser Communications, but today is EPOS. That used to be a joint venture with a German company. And that is all underpinned by shared functions and distribution activities. So we try to harvest synergies and help each other where it's possible. So we are present globally. So as you can see here, we are in 30 countries with subsidiaries, and to the rest, we sell through distributors. So we are very much a global company, one of the leading in the business. We are available. We have customers pulling on us 24/7, 365 days a year. There's no break for us. We have to be aligned and globally available always. So how does this product that we produce kind of translate in? So we've gone on a journey from mass production to what we call mass customization. It's very much been a push on the hardware side to begin with, where you can decide not both on color and how things are put together. So as you can see here, an exploded view of a hearing instrument or a hearing solution looks like this. But that's not only part of the complexity that we're looking into and part of this mass customization. Because one thing is the physical aspects of the product. Another one is when you add software to it. Because not only is your product configurable from a physical side, it's also configurable on a software side. And this together leads to a massively complex product. And our journey has very much been about how do we go and take this product that is so complex and so hard to understand and present it in a way that our customers can understand and work with. Just to give a perspective, the number of unique configurations that you could pull out of our product is this number here. And as you can see, this is a massive amount of combinations. And there's no way that we can expect our customers to navigate this in a way that is easy to understand and then that's easy to order. Because with mass customization also comes the fact that old ordering methods and ways of working don't really work anymore. It changes the landscape itself. So mass customization leads to complexity, which means it also leads to the obsolescence of old ways of working. Because as you can see here, you can't order this hearing aid on a piece of paper anymore. There's simply it's not possible. There's too much writing and too many things that can go wrong. This is an example from Japan. You can see writing in the margins because there's simply just no way of capturing this complexity in the old way of working, the old order forms. In addition to this, together with a complex product and the emergence of digital channels, we also see that product information is now being sourced to multiple endpoints or touch points from a whole host of different systems. So this is the system landscape that you have if you don't have a PIM system, for instance. Then you source based on some is sourced directly from databases, others are transferred between systems with Excel sheets. The chance of first of all, a confusing and contradicting user journey is too high. It's simply unsustainable for a company of our size that we can't provide a uniform product experience to our customers based from the first touch point to the last touch point. And we also don't want our customers to hit our website, get one piece of information, read our printed data sheets, get another piece of information, or get contradicting information. So this is kind of what we had to tackle. This is what we were looking at and going, okay, so how do we then move through this? This was also, it also came with the realization that we can't work as we always done. So we had these kind of changes in the way we work. And last time we had a big change is what we call the age of the customer, where we kind of saw that in the age of the customer, no brand is immortal in the sense that if the customer can't get what they want from us, if we are not easy to work with, we might provide you with the best product, but if you can't order the product or it's confusing how you work, then you will immediately try and change, you'll go somewhere else. And we don't want that. We want to make it easy, straightforward, relatable to order your product and get it in your hand and start using it. It's also very much about, we're an engineering company. So we have been working a lot with our products and we're good at telling what is a product about. And then we also do a very complex product. But the problem is that how we need to communicate this in a coherent way to our customers at the other end of this. And the massive amount of complexity that we add in often ends up for the user being confusing, it can be contradicting, and they can't really navigate in this in general. And another thing we found out is that it has to be marketing that takes ownership here. It cannot be IT. It cannot be the R&D. It has to be the marketing. They know the customers best. They know what they want. They speak the language that the customers speak. They understand what they need to hear. So it's not a pure IT project or implementation. It's very important that the business follows along, the marketing comes along on the journey. So we had to figure out how to go from this massive amount of combinations in a very boring, bland UI into something that we could provide, where sales and marketing could work to create a compelling product experience and amount of product information. So what we managed to do is we managed to show only what was relevant to our customers and to marketing from all the attributes and everything that we have created around our product to describe our product, all the features that we have. We managed to boil down these combinations to now a little over more than 1,000 what we call partial product configurations. So, and what is a partial product configuration? Well, the way we looked at it is that we took every item number we had, and then we took everything that was in common for those item numbers, and we kind of created a little box to hold them in. So if you imagine like a cardboard box, and on the outside you write your marketing description and your title and the name of the product, because that was all shared. The variance is hidden away from the customer, so the customer doesn't care if it's what the item number is. They care about the product, the features I'm getting. So we kind of elevated that away from the product number itself. And this is then what we actually implemented. So this is how we've looked at our PIM system. Our PIM system is very much a federation engine now. So as you can see, in contrast to the previous slide, is that this slide is very much PIM federates the information. We get the information from our translation service. So we have our translation bureau give us translations directly into PIM. We pull in images and PDF files from our DAM system. We get master data, we get configurations, and we put all that together into one partial product configuration. And then we expose that to our market, into our consumers. And that is both on our e-commerce side, it's in product catalogs, it's websites, it's mobile applications. It's across every touch point that uses product information in our company. And what we managed to do is we managed to take an inherently very complex and high technology product and boil it down to something that our end customers and consumers can understand, they can relate to it, and it's a coherent message. So no matter which touch point you hit us in, we make sure that it's the correct product information that's shown at that time.
Troels, that's an amazing slide, and I just wanted to call out the fact that this is really, it shows PIM as a foundational technology, as you said, that sort of processes everything else and enables you to scale across channels. Just a question in regards to your timeline. If 2010 was the age of the customer, is that when you started this digital transformation journey? Is this when you started thinking about e-commerce and simplifying the complexity of the solutions? Because that's so visionary for a manufacturing firm, if I may. Many firms have not made the progress that you have, especially now. So I was just curious about the timeline.
Yes, so we didn't quite start in 2010. I would love to say we were on the bleeding edge there, but not really in terms of this. The realization came when we started our e-commerce project. That's kind of where our PIM system, and we figured out, okay, so how do we get all this information that we have piled into our systems and Excel sheets and everywhere? How do we provide that into an e-commerce system that needs to be able to order these products from our and be able to place orders, and customers need to understand what they're buying, and it needs to be more important, because we're a medical company, it needs to be correct what we're showing. We can't show something that's not approved. So we were a little later. I think the start was around 2014, 15, maybe a little earlier than that. I don't remember exactly when. So that's where we kind of started it. And we quickly realized as we started the e-commerce journey that, what this PIM that we have built could be used in a whole bunch of other areas as well. So we started building all kinds of other applications connected to our PIM system that also revolved around product information. I think that would be kind of the start of our journey. We were early, but we were not bleeding edge early.
I don't know. I might have to argue with that. I would say that you were pretty bleeding edge. That's from what I've seen, but that's amazing. And I thank you for sharing that clarification, because it really is interesting to see all the different ways in which PIM touches different areas of the business. And of course, as you said, as a medical company, the information has to be correct and accurate. So, okay, thank you so much for clarifying that.
You are welcome. So let's have a more, but this process is more than just the technology implementation and the sourcing of the information. For us, it's very much been, as we say, the differentiation in the process of working. So what we started with is a good, solid master data foundation. If we need that, everybody needs that. If you want to do this in the correct way, then of course, part of it is understanding, how do my products fit together? How do I describe my product? Color variations and so forth. So we've created we have a master data department that works with this to ensure that our product configurations are correct, that our master data is correct. And then on top of that, we added in, and you can use PIM as a master data system as well. We do that in one of our business units where they don't have the big master data setup that hearing instruments has, but they still use PIM as a master data system. So that's also a capability that PIM has that is it is actually very good at it. So on top of the master data, we then added our assortments. So what happens is that when master data is built, our assortments are what is for sale in a specific country. So we add that on top of that. So when this is then kind of forms the foundation of how we work. So this is once master data has been working with this is a process that this goes through. Then PIM sources this into what we call the product marketing hub, or cloud data hub, or whatever you would like to call it. But this is then where marketing kind of steps in. So now we have the raw product data correct. We have the configurations correct. I have my sales portfolios in as well. And then we start enriching. Then we start adding marketing descriptions and creating catalogs and figuring out who are we selling this to? What is the mix? How are the catalogs supposed to be sorted? Then we localize it, because English is only the language is only one of our languages we support. So what happens is typically we would hand it off to a translation agency, or we hand it off to our local sales companies to say, we have created this catalog, or we have created this setup for you. Would you please translate the products that you have asked to have in here into the language that you would like to have? And then that kind of feeds back into our PIM system. So they go into the PIM system, do the translations, and flag things as done. When that then, on top of that, we also in this sense also source our images and PDF files from our DAM system. And that is again, then holds the images, the PDFs, also in translated versions. So PIM grabs that as well. Once that is all done, and everybody's happy, we release a catalog into our production environment. So it's a manual process. Where we go through right now is that you look at the catalog, you check the automation or the translations, you check that everything has been enriched correctly and that the completeness is there. And once it's there, you can release the catalog. And that triggers a process on our side that then compiles the catalog and sends it off into our cloud instance where we store these catalogs, and I'll get into that later. And then anybody who is interested in the catalog and has the correct IDs and so forth can access that product catalog in that country. So typically that could be if you would like to have one product catalog for your apps in a country, but another one for your e-commerce store, and maybe a third one running on your website because you only want to show premium products there with the top price points. This is kind of the way we have kind of looked at it. So once you change your process of working and kind of figure out, okay, there's some steps my products need to go through before they're ready, you also need to look at the teams that are here. So we typically think that I can buy a tool and I'm good to go. It's not quite enough, because you might have some of these roles, some of these might be half-time roles, but there are new roles and specialities coming in. So in our world, we have our master data. Here we have our central assortment operators, which basically sit down and say, okay, what is for sale in Denmark, what is for sale in France, and so forth. There's a PIM team that now consists of a product owner, which is me right now. And then we have some PIM specialists out in the business units that help us kind of act as super users and help support the business, understand the business. And then we have an application lead, which is my kind of a lead developer, and some developers. This is kind of the new team that we formed around this platform, saying that if we want to support a platform that is available worldwide 24/7, then we need a team around this that can develop it, change it, support it. And by develop, I mean that PIM is not a static platform. It evolves as the business evolves. So we have to follow the business. When they need new things, we need to look at, does it make sense to build it in PIM? If it does, then there's a team around that takes that in, looks at it and says, okay, this is how we're going to build this. This is how we're going to implement it. In marketing, we have some product information providers, which we are kind of set the baseline for all this. And this is also where graphical production comes in. In the local sales companies, we have outsourced some of our assortment control to them. So they take care of the wholesale companies in that given market. So if you have 4 wholesale companies, you typically have some regional assortment and catalog operators that sit and do the last touches on this. And then we have some regional regional approvers that are kind of take care of the more enrichment side of it, saying, okay, is this translation correct? Does this make sense in my country and the context we're showing it in? And finally, there's a product management steps in and says, okay, does the product look correct on our e-commerce side? Does it have the expression I would like? Does it look correct on the website? Does it have the expression I would like? And so forth. So this is a new roles and new competencies you kind of need to nurture in your company to make sure that will be a success.
I think that's a really important part, that the new competencies and the new roles have to align with the new technologies and the new ways that you're thinking. I think that you'd probably agree that that's often one of the failures of large implementations, that that organizations don't think about the different ways in which they need to align the people and the process and the technology. One thing won't fix it, right? It's very complex.
Yeah, you're completely correct. It's very important that we remember that PIM is a technology, but with that comes change management, which is a big deal. There comes a lot of maybe some people need to be trained, retrained. We need to involve our business units in the process itself, saying, okay, we are giving you more responsibility. We're changing the way you work, or similar to that. So it's something that we underestimate often, how much work goes into the people side of implementing something like a PIM system.
Agreed.
Yes. So this is how we look at it. So this is we call it's a connected user experience. So our PIM system and our partial product model is engaged at every point of the user journey itself, all the way from the awareness side to the loyalty side. So we try to work with the product data in different contexts. And it's not the same product data we provide. It depends on the context that you're in. So we're not going to provide you the same, the story is the same, and the overarching, the red line or the kind of the red thread through this is the same throughout. But you might not want to show all pictures on a social media post, but you might want to show different bigger pictures in the B2B side. Or when you get into the apps, data becomes constrained, so we're not sending as much text, or similar to that. So this is kind of taking, as you could see in the iceberg picture, the federation of this, and then distributing it out to our consumers throughout the entire journey. And taking a step deeper than this is kind of how is a high level integrated, it's an integrated process, but this is kind of high level how we built our information. So at the very bottom, of our architecture, we have a master data model and what we call enterprise product data services, or EPDS, or configuration service. That forms the foundation for our product itself, because it's a highly configurable product. We need PIM is good at relationships, but the big amount of configurations is not something PIM can handle itself. It's too complex. So we did that. We built this little bottom layer. Then on top of that, we looked at PIM and said, okay, PIM can do a lot of cool things. So we're not going to look at it only as a PIM system. We'll look at it as a platform that provides us with some business capabilities. So PIM is one application running on inRiver, but we also have assortment management, which is another business capability that we built on top of the inRiver platform. We built our master feature dictionary, which kind of takes care of how do we describe our products. And then we built language translations of our brands, language translations of our marketing messages and our features. But we also built what we call a brand alias. Because we support a number of brands, then they don't call the same feature the same thing in Oticon as they do in Burnerphone. So those two can be different. So we needed to be able to cater to that as well. So that's on top of the language translation. And then finally, PIM kind of takes all this and puts it into a consolidated partial product model that we then expose to our InDesign and marketing production side, which kind of makes sure that they could use it for print materials, technical data sheets, and so forth. And then we have an integrated talk with our DAM system, which then where we pull, where we get released digital assets from the DAM system. Once they have been approved, we get them into PIM, and then PIM auto-associates those because we speak the same overarching product language. We can automatically associate the image with the product itself. So we kind of say, okay, you have told me what the product is using our common master data language. I know exactly where to put this instruction for use, or this image, or this lifestyle image. And once all this is done, we have a layer called the approval service, which is something that we have custom built ourselves, that actually makes sure that nothing leaves PIM that has not been approved because of the regulatory requirements placed on us as a medical company. We make sure that this goes through a review and approval process that is compliant to the industry that we're in. And this is completely custom application. And this service actually utilizes inRiver's workflow engine to make sure that it goes through the right steps at the right time. And once all this is done, PIM then drops the data to our cloud data hub, where we run a real-time microservice layer. So basically what we've done is that each access point or each consumer has their own gateway into our API, so that they get the response, only the response they need. So they don't get all the data, they get the data they require in the format they want it in. And this is something that we are constantly working on improving and making sure that we align on with the rest of the business. That would be it for me. Thank you very much for listening, and I will hand it over to Simon.
Yes, thank you. And I have been fortunate enough to be a part of this journey since it began in 2015. It has been, I hope you all share that experience, a true impressive experience that Oticon have been through, Demant have been through, starting with the leading brand Oticon. And as Troels emphasized, this has been an effort to manage something that is by nature very complex, with the overall objective to make it as simplified as possible for all their end customers to take the necessary decision about acquiring a Demant product. And basically the guiding vision throughout this journey has been, how could Demant or Oticon be able to take ownership of their product experience? So this has been a vision all the way through, and it has been guiding us in all steps of this journey. And so at the end, I would just touch upon some of these learnings and maybe give you some recommendations on how you can start planning your own PIM journey to hopefully achieve some of the same results as Demant have been able to realize. Just shortly, I'm a partner at Imeo. We are a inRiver partner. We have been an inRiver partner for ever since we were started 6 years ago, and have been fortunate enough to be on Oticon or Demant to work with other larger manufacturing companies. So we have been able to gather a lot of insight about how global industrial manufacturing companies are tackling some of the current challenges when it comes to selling their products in a global market. And I'll just share some of our considerations concerning that. And just in general, and now we are in a situation that we are all challenged by the ongoing pandemic, and just some consideration in relation to that is that what we see is, of course, that we have had to change due to the constraints of when it comes to conducting the business and how we were used to doing or selling our products in the market. And some of the recent studies indicate that we have been somewhat successful in transforming our way of doing business. And we are also seeing some studies from McKinsey reports that some of these changes will stick. So we are seeing some changes that we had to do in order to be in the market, but now we also expect those changes to be more remote in our selling process, to be more digital in our engagement with our customers as a part of the future way of doing business. And this calls exactly for what Troels said, the control of your data. So you don't spend 90% of your time just sourcing and trying to get the data right, but you can spend 90% of your time utilizing the great fabric of data that most companies have. And we have tried to summarize that into what we call the 3 challenges when it comes to industries or manufacturers. And challenge 1 is, of course, the ongoing transformation, or as Accenture has actually termed it, the industrial consumerism, because, and we have known this for a long time, that people who go to work don't stop themselves being consumers. So whatever they are seeing as a B2C customer themselves, they will also expect as a B2B customer engaging with with other manufacturers. So the same services, the same readiness, the same availability of data, and the same ease of use or ease of purchasing is something they expect when they are dealing with services from manufacturers as well. So that has just been accelerated by the COVID and is now the prevailing trend. The second challenge is also what Troels talked about when he talked about the age of the customer. We are actually even moving into, you can say, the Industry 4.0 scenario, in which we are talking about how to utilize data more effectively. And that really calls for what Troels was talking about, how you are able to federate and really utilize your data, to really build solutions. And also what Troels said, Demant have been moving from designing products into designing solutions. And that is really a matter of being in control and be able to utilize the data that you have about your products, but also the data that you can obtain about the usage of your products, all the insight that you get from being in the market, and use that in real time. So that calls for a real control and true governance when it comes to mastering the data. And then thirdly, what we also see, at least in our market, when we're talking about European or American companies, typically that they are still surviving selling premium products. And that means that, at least in our market, as Demant is a very open case about, is that they are investing a lot of effort and resources into developing the best products in the market. But that also means that they can't compete on price. So if they are to still champion the market and sell their products, they need to be able to really marketeer themselves on the capabilities, the declaration of performance that is associated with their product, so they can really sell on the overall business case when it comes to the product, the overall value you get out of of buying and using their products in because they will lose if this is just a matter of being in a marketplace and sell on price. So that all calls for a true ownership of how you really want to marketeer your products as a manufacturing company. And we have tried to summarize this into 6 areas in which we believe every PIM system should address as a part of the core challenge. And that is really setting the bar high for being able to own the localized information model that really informs the customer about how your product is really adding value, and be able to deliver this in real time, so the customer will experience an ease of use and a trust in the data is updated and correct. And at the same time, due to the full customization of products, we're seeing an explosion in assortment. So you need to be able to find ways of managing that. Troels talked about how PIM has been able to develop a method that allows Oticon really to enrich and distribute information models about their products and have that running together with a full configurational service that allows you to engage and understand the product and then get it fully customized. And then PIM should, of course, address all of the inefficiencies that you have today due to all of the manual processes. As I mentioned, the 90% of the time you spend on assuring and quality assessing data. And we see in so many cases that PIM need to be able to tackle some of the classic problems, like you have multiple material numbers for the same component and so on. You need to tackle some of these issues. You can't just inherit the old complexity when you really want to achieve something new and better. And then it's important to kill some of the old process streams and have that as a clear objective when you are trying to set your target for PIM as a one important step really to build the prevailing product experience for your customers. And overall, we see a change that is now, you can say, challenging the old perceptions of how you were organizing and how you were really structuring your company, because data is flowing across all areas of your business. So in the old value chain approach, you would more or less, you can say, define your company by function, and then you would have some cross-process support areas. But we see data is changing a lot of that. So now it's much more interesting to see what is the business data process support that you really need to be able to build those business capabilities, and how you can be in constant control or have the right governance scheme to be able to control your data throughout the process, instead of just, you can say, focusing on how you are value adding through a functional structuring of your company. So this is a part of what we see as really driving some of the effort to really take ownership of data and be able to deliver those services that you want to bring to the market. And we have tried to address that in an ebook that we called How to Take Ownership of Your Product Experience, and it addresses some of these issues and hopefully gives you some inspiration. And a lot of the things in that ebook comes from our learnings from projects like Demant and Oticon, and essentially it summarizes 4 areas that you should, in our recommendation, build your PIM business case on. Essentially, how you can compete with your premium products, how you can set up the right redefinition of how to enrich your products for the market, how you can use PIM to eliminate some of the inefficient workflows that you have today, and how you can get the operational scalability that allows you really to utilize the options that cloud provides to you by building the right ecosystem that allows you to scale and to be able to deliver real-time data to your market. And then, of course, focus on the lasting impact on how you can really get the strategic growth that you are looking into by utilizing the possibilities in PIM. And it also comes with, I won't bore you with this, but a 6-step process, like all good guidebooks, for how you can really get on started with your PIM process. But that goes from, you can say, setting the right targets, strategic targets, until the, you can say, continuous focus on staying true to your strategic direction. And the ebook will, I think, will be available as a download on the inRiver site. But thanks for listening in, and back to you, Erica.
Thanks so much. This is an amazing story of growth and innovation. And I love the way that you both tell the story of utilizing data for personalization and the relevancy of content, and making sure that even in B2B, it's a relevant and engaging experience for buyers from the very start of the journey to the end. And I think that's really, really important. And of course, that's one of the things that PIM helps with. So I hope everyone has had some great learnings today. And before we go, I want to ask both of you, if there was one piece of advice you would give to someone looking to implement a PIM system or to transform their manufacturing organization today, what would it be? That's a big ask, I know.
I can give it a go. So I would say don't look at it from a holistic perspective. So have a look at the full process, not only the technology, but also the processes and the people that come along with it. Don't forget the last 2. They are often overlooked in technology implementations. But if you want to succeed with a PIM system, especially in large scale manufacturing companies, the people and the process need to follow along with it.
That's great.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Basically, I would say that it's a good advice is to consider PIM as a business application and not a technology platform, because it really is a matter of redesigning some core flows of how you work and how you do business and how you engage with your customers. This is where you really get the full value out of PIM, and not just as a container for data or an infrastructural component in your data setup. It's much more than that, and that goes back to you, as Troels mentioned, the whole process approach, the whole consideration about how you onboard. And truly, one great thing about PIM is that it actually, I think one of the things that it does is that it onboards people who have for a long time been outside the digital go-to-market models. Actually, quite interestingly, we found out that product management, marketing have often been doing their work in parallel tracks, because they were not a part of the core data flow. And PIM really onboards those people into a connected data flow right now. And that's something you should be aware of when you start your PIM project, that you're actually, you can say, bridging the gap of really onboarding those people who know about your products and how to market your products in a connected work process, and that how much that can actually add to your business when you go to market.
That's great. That's a perfect way to end the segment and the webinar. Thank you so much to Troels and Simon for your insights and information. And if you have any questions about PIM, of course, you can feel free to reach out to inRiver or Imeo, reach out to Simon. And thank you both so much. It was really insightful. I appreciate it.
Thanks for hosting it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.